So what was the sexiest piece of medieval siege equipment on the tier list? Flogging up the F tier is the Onager, a torsion-powered catapult that only saw use in the very early medieval period, and it was more of a Roman thing that soon got replaced when something better came along. Climbing into the D tier is the Siege Ladder, an effective piece of equipment for what it did and was pretty much used in every siege ever. However, it left the attacker horribly vulnerable to the defenders above. These things were the equivalent of vegetables on your plate at dinner time, necessary but no one's getting excited over them. Clapping up the C tier is the Traction Trebuchet, or the Mangonel, which replaced the Onager, and its ability to yeet stones to break fortifications, body parts to terrify your enemy, or rotting animal carcasses to spread disease made it quite the staple in most medieval sieges up until the 12th century. Being in at the C tier is Sappers, because while undermining your enemy's walls to collapse its foundations could be really effective, it was also rather easy for the enemy to countermine you back and collapse your tunnels before you collapse their walls. Banging into the B tier is the Giant Crossbow or Ballista, because nothing was better than penetrating your enemy with a giant 2-meter long member, and this thing could break down wooden fortifications quite easily as well, but it was probably better on the defense as it wouldn't help you break down these big stone castle walls, but it would probably be quite scary to be on the receiving end of. Mantlets or portable shields are also in the B tier. They're not super sexy, gorgeous, attractive, but they're bloody efficient at what they do. They can cover your archers or cover your siege equipment, and you can keep moving them up to get closer to the enemy without getting struck by a crossbow bolt. Maybe not the sexiest thing you've ever taken home, but it gets the job done. For battering around the gate and wall banger. Cover it with shields and you're now resistant against projectiles. Cover it in vinegar and it's now fire resistant. A great piece of kit you'd need at every single siege. However, you would have to fill in the enemy's ditch first before you could use it. Appetising in the A tier is the Siege Tower. Similar to the Ram, you'd have to fill in your opponent's ditch first before you pushed it to the walls, but once it got moving it was a mobile fortress. You could have archers on the top to clear out the wall before it landed, and once it did land, if you got a few of them on your opponent's walls, they'd be pretty easy to capture. Smashing it up in the S tier is the Counterweight Trebuchet. These sexy beasts revolutionised medieval siege warfare as they could launch 100-kilogram projectiles over 200 metres, and while the Torsion Trebuchet did do some damage to an opponent's wall, the Counterweight Trebuchet could bring down the entire wall, leading to a revolution in castle building where walls were made thicker to deal with this thing. Snuggling up to the Trebuchet in S tier is the Cannon, also revolutionising siege warfare, seeing the decline of castles towards star forts in order to deal with these massive beasts.